Hi, friends. I'm here today to share with you what it looks like for me to be triggered and to work through that trigger in order to find healing. And I just want to point out my husband's baby shack, which someday I'll maybe tell you about that. But for now, yes, it is my living room. And yes, it is baby shack. So I got super triggered yesterday, and I'm coming on today to talk to my friends who get triggered by situations that are not that deep. And yes, they're upsetting, and yes, they deserve attention, but they end up hurting way more than they really should. And for me, that's a trigger. For me, that's showing me that something on a superficial level, on the surface level, is actually impacting a deep, deep, deep place inside of me. And so, to give you the backstory of what happened so you can understand my process of working through a trigger, I was asked by a couple of friends to come and help them work through an issue that they were having. And I came and, we agreed that I was going to share what I believed to be truth and that I was going to speak to both of them as their friend and as a mediator, I guess, someone who believes in them both and sees them both. And when we were meeting, I ended up having to confront some issues that I saw in one person more than the other. And later, I received a group text message involving a different friend that wasn't part of that, and one of the people that had asked me to come and help them to mitigate whatever was happening. And in that text message, they had said to me that they felt judged, that they felt misunderstood, and that they felt like they didn't realize what was being said. And so I replied and simply said, "I'm so sorry. And if it would be helpful, you could, write this out and you could express it to me that way. But I'd like to hear what you experienced." And they basically said, "Well, I'm tired of explaining myself, so I'm not going to respond. Or if I change my mind, I'll let you know." And then left it at that. And for the first week, I was fine. But eventually, I began to start feeling um, like a heaviness in my chest. And then yesterday I woke up, and as soon as I woke up, I was like, just felt a little bit off. And I had a couple conversations with a few different people in which they kind of pulled away from me. And I realized that because of the situation the week before, and because of these situations with different people, I was being triggered on my abandonment wound. And, my dad left our family when I was a kid, and my mom was left with us 6 kids and grandson at that point, and did the best that she could, but also just really struggled and wasn't able to be emotionally present, wasn't physically present. And I spent a lot of time alone. And so there's a part of me that's learned, like, get along and be kind and don't upset, don't hurt people, and they won't leave you. And so I could feel inside of myself because of this conversation a week before, and because of a conversation I had had yesterday where two people I'm close to are at odds. I could feel this familiar feeling of like, I have to choose one or the other, or else I'm going to be abandoned by both. And if I choose one or the other, I'm going to be abandoned by both. So it's just this deep feeling of abandonment. And for me, that felt like this knot in my chest, felt like a heaviness. And then also like a paper thin um, ability to hold back crying. And I'm someone who's struggled to cry for my own pain most of my life. I have deep emotional empathy, and I can feel other people's pain and I can cry with them, but often not for myself. And so I could feel that I was getting close to the point of not, like, jumping off a cliff almost internally, of like, I'm going to be too far gone to be able to handle this, and I'm going to be struggling. And so I I realized what was happening. Like, my wise mind could tell that the situation that had happened was the precipice, the point that it started but it wasn't because of that situation. It was actually because of the feelings that I was having coming up from that situation that I was feeling triggered. And so I texted my husband, and he was wonderful and texted me back. And I called a friend, and she was unavailable. And so then I reached out to another friend. And this was actually the first time that I've ever reached out to her. Part of my learning journey is actually beginning to reach out to people when I'm in those dark places. I've always been available for other people when they're hurting and they're in that broken place. They can call me and I will sit with them and be with them. But when it's me that's triggered, oftentimes I sit alone in my bathtub or alone in my bed and I deal with my pain on my own. And in 2020, God had told me that He had taken me as far as He could on my own. I had learned and grown, and I feel very connected to God and very close to God. But He said that I needed people for the next leg of this journey, that I wouldn't be able to grow or develop anymore as a follower of Jesus if I'm not intimately connected with other people. And I had kept my armor up forever. Like I could always come and love someone else, but receiving the love myself, I could not do. And so I've been on this journey learning, and my friend that I called is a dear, dear friend in the Netherlands. And I knew that if she was available, she would answer. And I knew that just being with her would be helpful. And so I called her, and she's adorable. You know, she's got her hair, she's just washed her hair. So she's got her hair up in her towel, and she took time to visit with me. And I told her what was happening. And this is what it looks like to work through a trigger. And this is also what it looks like to have a friend who supports you and empowers you. After I shared everything with her, by this point, I'm just silently weeping. And she said, can we breathe together? And so we put our hands on our heart and we just breathe in deeply through our nose and out through our mouths. We did that for just a couple minutes. And I could feel, even before we exchanged any more words, my nervous system was regulating with her. And I cried. Like, it wasn't me regulating my nervous system, doesn't mean that ledge or that paper thin barrier I felt between my emotions. It does not mean that I didn't access that. It means I accessed it with someone else present. And I was able to process the pain that was there. And she said a few things to me that I wanted to share today because I feel like they were hugely impactful for me. And I think that they will be for anybody else who's going through similar struggles and going through learning what it means to work through your triggers. And the first thing she said to me is, I want you to know that everything is going to be okay, no matter what. No matter what happens with your other friends, how they respond, everything is going to be okay because you've got you. There is now someone who will stand up for you, who will support you, and who will help you. And it's you. And I will also be here. And so the first step of working through a trigger is recognizing we're safe because we're developing the ability within ourselves to be present with those parts of us that have had to face things on their own. Recognizing that the pain that we experience is real and truthful, and maybe no one else was ever there with us in the past. No one could assist us in processing that trauma or processing that trigger. But now we have ourselves, and we can choose to value ourselves and love ourselves just like we would other people. And we also have friends, true friends, when you develop them, that are healthy and strong and that will see you and love you in exactly the state that you're in. And then from there, she told me a few things that really stuck in my mind and really made me more aware of the internal process I'm going through as I'm dealing with my triggers. The next thing that she said to me, I took a few notes here because I want to make sure I get it all for you. She asked me, in this situation, what can I take responsibility for? Because I had said to her, like, I want to do the most loving thing. If I need to reach out to this friend and like say, hey, what did I do? Or what happened? I want to do that. Or if the most loving thing is for me not to do anything, I want to do that. And she said that in my question, even though love is a very noble cause, in that question, I was still striving to deal with my discomfort of the unknown. And she said, the only thing in this situation that I can take responsibility for is my own emotions and my own responses. And I realized that I have done what I can do. And this situation feels bigger than it is because it's tripping up on my past. And so my friend can reach out to me if she wants, and I trust that if she wants to, she will. And then we can work through this superficial level trigger in our relationship. But it's my responsibility to deal with my own pain and to deal with my own hurt regarding my own experiences, both present and past. The other thing she said to me that I thought was really interesting was she said that people who have not grown with me, so in this journey over the last 6 years, the people who haven't journeyed with me in this growth, they actually are reflecting to me a former version of myself. And so they see me differently than I currently am. And the same is true for you. When you're getting triggered and someone is reflecting something back to you and it doesn't seem accurate, it doesn't seem true about who you are, it may be that they haven't journeyed with you and that they're reflecting an old version. And the difficult thing about an old version being reflected back is that we get pulled into old patterns. And so I could feel the draw in myself. And I'm not blaming this on my friend at all. I'm taking personal responsibility for myself in that when I feel someone is upset with me or I've done something wrong, then I will literally feel compelled to go and make everything okay, to show them that I'm good, that I didn't mean to hurt them, and that I want to be connected. And so when someone reflects back to me an old version of me, then that same pattern is literally like ignited within. And then I'm drawn back into this old version of myself. And when I'm drawn back into not old version of myself, but old patterns that I used to participate in. And what's interesting is when I can see clearly, I can feel the pattern and the pull from the pattern to engage in the way that I used to. But the longer that I fight with that and the more that my old self is being reflected, the more that I'm pulled into that old pattern. And so I have to resist it. So when this first happened, when I first got the text message explaining how they felt I could feel the old pattern ignite, but I was able to resist it for a while until I had these couple other interactions yesterday. And then it was like, I was right in it. And I was like, this is my fault and I need to fix this, even though there's really nothing I can do in this situation. And then the other question that she asked me, which is really difficult, and this is part of the self-work. And I mean, maybe you'd consider it shadow work or whatever, but just recognizing, what am I getting out of this? Like, what am I getting out of supporting friends? What am I getting out of showing up in the way that I do? What is it that a part of me needs in order to feel like I'm somehow complete? And so that is part of the work too, is recognizing, like, when we're in these situations where we get triggered, what is it that we are getting from it that's causing us to continue engaging? And you have to be really like self-reflective and really honest. Like, oh, okay, my ego is really delighted when people need me, or I feel really good about myself when I have the answers, or I feel really helpful when I'm able to help someone that maybe someone else hasn't, or whatever it is that each of us struggle with. We have to become real with that and then deal with our identity issues so that we're not performing or striving out of our lack of identity. And then the other thing that my friend said that was really, really, really helpful for me was that as we go on this healing journey and we deal with the triggers and we deal with the pain, what we begin to realize is the truth and the gift of who we are, who God created us to be in this world, is mixed in with the pain. And as we go through these situations, like I went through, it's our opportunity to disentangle the pain and the fear from our true gifting. And so I'm called to be present and to support people and to be authentic with them. And yet I have this pain that's twisted in from the times that I haven't been able to be for whatever reason, and the ways that people have used that against me, and the ways that I've performed in order to prove who I am. And my healing looks like getting drawn into these patterns, recognizing it's there, disentangling the fear and the truth, and then separating from it and continuing on in my journey. And so I want to encourage you that as you're experiencing a trigger, it's easy to get caught up in the details of the situation. It's easy to look at this specific situation and say, they're the problem, or I'm the problem, or whatever it might be. But every time you get that deep body trigger that is much more than just this moment, then begin examining and looking for, what is the pattern here? Where else have I done this in my life? What feeling does this give me? How did I get drawn into this? What's coming up for me? And allow yourself to really feel and begin to recognize the patterns that we carry. My struggle, and part of what came up for me with this specific situation, is that when my parents divorced when I was a young girl, I thought that I could help my mom if I could just get my dad to come back. And so then I was trying to be good and trying to show him that I could be helpful and that our family could be restored and all these things. And he didn't come back. He never did. And so I struggle with now almost trying to repeat that pattern by trying to help people come back to who their true selves are when I maybe haven't known their true self. Like with my dad, I don't think I ever knew his true self. And so when I get pulled into these patterns, I can feel it in my body. Like I can feel in my chest and in my gut and in my mind how I'm drawn into this energetic exchange with people. And I have to begin learning, what part am I playing and how am I interacting in a way that is continuing this pattern? And where do I need to disentangle pain and fear and stop this behavior in myself? Yeah, so this is what healing looks like. Healing yesterday for me looked like acknowledging the deep pain of emotional abandonment that I was experiencing because of this small experience with a current friend, triggering the deeper, more hidden, more invasive, more full pain of the abandonment and the breaking of my family when I was a child. And so I worked through that by recognizing there was two things happening. I'm having a difficulty with a friend, and that's okay. If our friendship is as steady as I believe it is, we'll work through it and we'll move on. And if not, then we aren't meant to be friends, and I can accept that also. And recognizing that I had a deep need to be seen and loved by someone who cared for me. And I did that in two ways. One, by providing it for myself, loving myself in the ways that I needed, and also reaching out to a friend. And to be honest, reaching out to this friend was almost the hardest, because I don't have a problem expressing the difficulty of this situation. It feels much more vulnerable to express the feelings that I'm having because of that. And so learning to be real about the feelings I'm having, letting someone see me truthfully, receive their love, and then embody that instead of turning inwards and disconnecting, that's where the healing happens. So I hope that as you experience triggers, you remember this, come back to it, save this video so that when you get triggered, you can take the time to ask yourself those questions, continue growing and healing on your journey. With that, Sergeant Sister out.